IP friends, welcome to episode 101. Super excited, I'm starting another 100. Trying to get to 200 right now, so this is one out of 200. But yeah, my name remains Rita Arumichinda, and I am the podcast host for IP Series with Rita. So if this is your first time listening to me talk about everything intellectual property, please turn on your notification button, subscribe on any of the platforms you're currently listening to me chat about intellectual property. And for my returning listeners, thank you so much for sticking with me for the last 3 years. On the 18th made us 3 years, and we are gunning for our first 5 years. So I'm hoping by the first 5 years I have like 500 episodes. I'm hoping that will be my own record I need to break. But yeah, let's get into our conversation for today. So our next guest is a superstar that transitioned from being an actor into becoming a lawyer. And when I reached out to him on Twitter, he was gracious enough to say yes. We had a bit of network glitch when we initially fixed an appointment, but he was kind enough again to reschedule. And this is the final recording that we ended up doing. And trust me, guys, if you are a screenwriter or you work in the film industry, you're actually going to appreciate Larry's expertise, though he's based in the US. But for those in Africa or from anywhere you're listening to us today, you can always fine-tune it into how it applies to your jurisdiction. So let's welcome Larry. Welcome, Larry.
Okay.
Okay then, so welcome, Larry. It's a pleasure having you here.
I'm so glad to be here. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Rita.
Thank you. So let's get to meet you, Larry. Who is Larry? Where are you based, and what do you do?
Okay. Well, my name is Larry Zerner. I'm an entertainment attorney. I've been entertainment attorney now for 32 years. I've been on my own for 23 years. I started out as an actor back in college. So I have that business. Some people know me. I was in this movie Friday the 13th Part 3, which is
Oh my God!
Have you seen that movie,
Really?
Rita? Have you seen it?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I was. You can Google me and you can see me. And I was the guy who gave Jason his hockey mask in that movie, and
Oh my God.
and then that peak acting, and then Hollywood decided I should do something else to make money. So I've been a lawyer, and now I use my talents to protect the rights of people in the industry, writers, directors, producers, actors, and that's how I spend my day, and that's what I enjoy doing.
Wow, it's a pleasure to meet you, Larry. I might have to go watch the movie again just to get a clearer picture of what you look like while you were younger.
Okay. Exactly the same.
Are you sure?
It's only been 41 years, so okay.
Okay then. So I reached out to you because I saw you were, really into the creative writing, just advancing the creative space, and also in light of the recent WGA Writers Strike. But first, what do creatives need to know when it comes to intellectual property? What do we really need to know?
Well,
being a creative.
Yeah, I mean, from a U.S. perspective, your intellectual property is the fact that you own the stuff you create, the stuff you write. Mostly we're talking about stuff you write, but if you perform a monologue, you in theory and film it, or you film a movie on your own, you own that. Under U.S. law, the copyright exists at the moment of creation as long as it's put down in a tangible form. So it's recorded, it's videotaped, it's on a piece of paper, it's on a computer screen. As long as there's something that someone can go, there it is, there's copyright that exists under but under U.S. law, it's important to register the work with the Copyright Office for a few reasons. One is to show that you own it, right? It's proof of the prior creation if someone says you stole it. And also in the US, you must have a copyright registration before if you're going to file a lawsuit. And unlike other countries which have the loser pays attorney's fees rule, the US does not automatically have that rule. And so that rule only applies in a US copyright case if you filed for copyright before the infringement happens. So if sometimes I know there are a lot of listeners who are outside the United States, but if you're submitting in the United States and you're worried that someone might steal it in the United States, actually you don't have to have a registration in the United States under the various treaties we have with other countries. It's not required, but in order to get the attorney's fees, you do need to have the registration prior to the infringement. So if you're outside this country, but you're submitting in this country and you're trying to get a U.S. movie made, I would definitely tell you to register with the Copyright Office. It's you can go online. It's copyright.gov, and you can fill out the form. It's not a hard form to fill out. Name of the script. When did you write it? It's upload it. It's nothing that you don't need a lawyer to prepare the document. And I actually have a YouTube video you can look at where I walk you through it. I do one, and you can follow along, and it'll take you 10 minutes, and then you'll be done. It's pretty easy.
Interesting. I would say for us here in Nigeria, subject to our new Copyright Act 2022, which was recently signed by our outgoing president, the law now provides that the Copyright Commission should retain copies of your copyright. So they have to, first of all, have a register of copyrighted work. Then you as the creative need to now do a registration with the commission. But it's interesting to, learn how copyright operates within the United States. So my next question would be, having worked in the film industry, what are the rights that copyright has when it comes to, creating intangible assets and also assisting the film industry?
Well, when they've created it, they own all the rights. We talk about copyright as a pie, and that you start owning all the rights. You have the right to turn that script into a movie, to turn that script into a book, to adapt it into a Broadway musical. You can do whatever you want with it, or you can sell out off those pieces of the script to other people, and that's what you're doing. You're trying to maximize the amount of money you can get from selling off the pieces of your copyright pie. Now, usually when you make a deal for a movie, the buyer, the studio or the producer will say, I want the whole pie. And you may have to push back on some of that because they're not necessarily going to use all those pieces of the pie. Here, like in the US, if you're a Writers Guild member, you automatically get to keep the right to, for example, make a Broadway musical out of your script. That's not something that they can buy from you. It's when they buy the movie rights. But so you can push back and go, no, I'm making a book about this. I'm making I'm going to do that. So, it's hard when you don't have a union and it's your first script to have the temerity to go, I'm going to say no. The other thing is you need to be really careful is the right to make sequels, because that agreement will definitely say we can make sequels, and you got to make sure that it says, well, if you make sequels, you're going to pay me for those sequels as well, because you don't want to have a situation where you wrote one movie and then, there are 5 or 10 sequels made and you get no more money. That's not fair. And that's something that you can push back on and say, well, I want money if you make a sequel. And if you're a WGA member in the United States, you usually will get at least half of the fee if they make a sequel, even if you didn't write it.
Hmm. Interesting. So, what then can a creative look out for in a contract? I mean, focusing our conversations to script writers now, because you made mention of the rights that can be monetized at where someone can make an offer to
Mm.
buy in all of those rights. So, what are those things they need to look out for? Should they want to go ahead to sell off all of the rights that they have, inclusive
Yeah,
of the
moral rights not something we
copyright?
have in the U.S. because we don't have any morals. Uh, uh, but Well, listen, if you're selling a script and there's some real money coming in, you really should hire a lawyer or somebody to help you with that. There's a little too much to deal with in the podcast. There are books out there on dealing with this. I've written articles on it. But the one thing is the price. Obviously, the price. How much they're going to pay you for this script, and what you want to be clear is that if they say, well, this is going to be a low budget movie, um, so we can only pay you, this amount of money. So it's, oh, we're going to make the movie at $1 million, so we'll pay you 25,000, which is 2.5% of the budget, right? I mean, that happens, and you go, okay. I mean, but if the budget goes up, my fee goes up because producers, first of all, will lie to you about what the budget is, or you never know when, oh, look, Keanu Reeves wants to be in this movie, or Scarlett Johansson wants to be in this movie. And then the budget went up to $10 million. Well, now they got a lot more money to pay you, and your fee should go up. So the the first thing you want to do is make sure that there is a provision in that agreement that your the fee is tied to the budget, um, and it will go up um, as the budget goes up, and they will show you the budget. So that's key. If the this again more under U.S. law, if there is uh, if you've already written, if it's a spec script, so the script is already done and someone's just buying it, you should not say the words work for hire. That's a U.S. term where under work for hire, the purchaser, the studio, will then own the copyright outright. I mean, they will be considered the author of the work on a work for hire. And in now we have this provision under U.S. law that says that after 35 years, you can cancel the transfer and get the rights back, and that's become very popular now. That's something that started in the U.S. in the '78 law, so it didn't really come into effect until 35 years after that. So the 2013, and then now you're seeing a lot of these sequels or remakes of '80s movies because the authors, the screenwriters, are getting back those rights to those movies and are able to make new deals to re you know to, to start again, and that's why, so that's a boon. I know it's a long time, but if you write something when you're 30, or and then, okay, I'm 65 and now I can start again and get a bunch more money, that's always good. So, but that doesn't apply if it was a work for hire under US law, so you don't want that language in there if it was not a work for hire. Now if you were hired and they said, okay, we're going to pay you X amount to write this script from the beginning, then it's a different story. But if you wrote a spec script, you have the power. And don't let them say, like they're going to put, a movie costs millions of dollars to make at minimum. Pretty, a movie that's going to be in the theaters. They have the money to pay you. They don't want to pay you, but they have the money to pay you. And if you hold firm, not crazy amounts, but usually you should be looking at between 2 to 3% of the budget as a writing fee, and you should not get pushback if you are if that's all you're asking for. You should be able to get that.
Interesting. So would that also apply when you're dealing with treatments or just
Well, the treatment is, well, that's where you're being paid, because if you come in and all you have is a treatment, and you still got to write a script, then and they're paying you to write the script, then they will consider that to be work for hire. Because so the question is, when you're being paid, are you being paid for something that's already completed and you're just handing them the script, or are they paying you to do the work? In which case, then they have more power because they can hire they can hire someone else to do the writing. When you have a script that's already done, they can't hire someone else. It's yours. You've made it, and they can't use it without first you signing off on it. Usually, but sometimes if someone's coming to you and says, here's an idea, you just have an idea, it's a dog that's on the Titanic, whatever. You go, okay, someone has, all right, let me see the treatment, and then, we'll see if I like the treatment, I'll do the script, more in step payments. And that's usually more just, this is the fee and this is what you're going to get.
Couple of weeks ago, I think it's about 3 weeks now, I would say, there was this very viral post about WGA writers going on strike. What I know it applies to the US only, but what?
Yeah, well, the writers are on strike in here in Hollywood, so a lot of shows are shut down. That mostly, I don't speak for the Writers Guild, but I have clients who are certainly members of the Writers Guild. Besides the typical, how much money we should get, they negotiate every 3 years. So it partly is like what should our new fee be? But the big issues with the Writers Guild are a couple of these things. One of the things is called the writers' room, whereas before, in the old days, you're not that old, but in the old days, the shows used to be on in American shows. You'd have 22 episodes, 26 episodes. Yeah. So you'd have a group of writers who were hired, and it would take them, 9 months to write that amount of episodes. And so they'd have a job, and then they get paid when the show aired, and they get paid when it reran, and they could make a good living. Now, in the streaming era, shows are not 22 episodes; they're 10 episodes or 8 episodes. Well, but you can't. Yeah. Well, you can't live on that. It's much harder. And then there's not a network that is running them again. They're just on streaming forever, right? They're just on HBO or Showtime or one of those, or Netflix, and they just stream. There's no residuals, and the residuals is what brings keeps the writers going during the lean times, and there's always lean times for these writers. So one of the things they're trying to do is make sure that they get a certain amount of weeks in a writer's room, and that's a big issue. The other issue right now is the AI issue, which is that they don't want the studios to be using AI to write their scripts because they know that that's going to really cut into their ability to make a living. The studios will think nothing of asking the AI computer to come up with story ideas and then you hand those to a writer. And sure. So instead of hiring 10 writers for 22 weeks, now you're hiring 5 writers for 10 weeks, and it's going to kill the writers. So those are the biggest issues right now in the writers strike.
Okay, then. So, how do they actually earn royalties from the scripts? How do they get added on to the film credits when the movie gets?
How did the screenwriting credits get determined? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so royalties first, and then.
Okay. Well, movies don't have royalties; they have residuals, which is a little different. Okay, so because songs have royalties, residuals is a right now. But this is for actors and writers and directors. Whenever there is a sale, not from the initial box office of the movie, but the movie is then sold to Netflix or sold to sold foreign television. 2%, roughly 2% of the fee is goes to the writers, roughly 2% goes to the directors, and roughly 2% is split among the actors in that film, and those are the residuals. And that's also a problem because we don't now. Every studio has their own streaming network, so they don't go out to the market and sell it. They just put it on their own streaming network. Paramount has their own streaming network, Paramount Plus, and the others have their own as well. And Universal has Peacock. So that makes it there's a lot less money in residuals. There is when we say sometimes movies get writers can get a piece of the profits. Very few movies are actually in profit, but in theory, there are movies where you can get a percentage of whatever the profit is. But that's different. Residuals you get whether or not the movie's in profit. If there was a sale, the 2% is paid, whether even if the movie is still in the red. And was the other question was credits?
Okay. Yeah, film credit. How do you?
Well, this is own. So if you're in the Writers Guild, there's a way to deal with it. If you're not in the Writers Guild, you there is no way really to do it except to say in your contract, I get a credit. You've contractually agreed to give me a credit, and that's the way it is. The Writers Guild has a self where the writers agree. People who are in the Writers Guild agree to act as sort of arbitrators, and if there's a dispute over who wrote a script, then they will send the various versions of the script to basically volunteers at the Writers Guild who will act as arbitrators. They will read the scripts and they will make a determination as to who should get credit, whether it's a single credit, a shared credit. Sometimes someone gets a story credit, another person gets the screenplay credit, and that does matter in terms of whether you're getting. If you don't get the credit, you don't get the royalties. You don't get the residuals, and a lot of times, even in your contract, it requires that you get the credit in order to get the back end profit participation. If you've been rewritten enough that you don't get that credit, then you don't get the back end either. So it can be a lot of money at stake.
Wow. I mean, it's a lot to take in right now. But how? What would you say is like the best mode to engage a screenwriter, and what intellectual property rights
Wait, what was the first part
in the
again?
film industry? Best mode of engaging a screenwriter, and what?
When you say best mode of engaging, you mean how to hire a screenwriter for your film if you're a producer?
Yeah. So yeah. So would you go through the WGA, or would you get a freelancer?
Well, first it depends on your budget.
Absolutely.
Obviously, the WGA writers are going to be
Okay.
more expensive, and you're going to deal with they're going to be minimum wage that the guild sets, and you have to pay pensions and healthcare. So there's more money, but those are the better writers for the most part. So um, if you want to engage a writer, and either you go, well, I'm writing a horror movie, and oh, I like that horror movie. Maybe let's see if that writer, I can hire him, and you can send a proposal. I mean, writers love getting hired, so it's not that hard. If you have the money, you can hire anybody pretty much to write your film. Um, if you don't, uh, and you're making a low budget movie, then and you can go on. There are certainly sites for producers to read various samples of writing and find a writer they like. It's I've never had that issue because usually the writer on the producer is if they're in making a picture with money, they sort of know what writers they want, uh, and if they're low budget, they're sort of just they'd rather buy the script than hire a writer. But usually, if you're a producer, then you get to know writers and find out, who's good in your genre, and you know see what they've done, and hopefully that works out.
Okay then. So what IP rights would you say exist
Well,
in the film industry?
I mean, mostly the copyright exists, to the script and to the film. There, otherwise, I mean, there's also trademark rights that exist for titles of films. You can't people you can trademark a title if it's more than one movie. So there's got to be a series of movies for there to get a trademark. But whether that's Star Wars or Harry Potter, that's you can get that's a trademark. Or Friday the 13th, that's a trademark as well, for the name, to protect the name. I would tell, sometimes people call me and they've written a spec script and they want to register to the trademark of the film, and I go, that's just a waste of money to try and protect it before the film is even bought in the theater, and you see how it is. Mostly if you're not the one putting out the film, you don't even know that title will remain, because um, titles change all the time. And if you're in the MPA, the Motion Picture Association of producers, those producers, they have their own title registry. It's separate from the U.S. trademark, where people can register names and protect them, and then no one else can use that title, it's not under trademark law at all. It's just a self-regulating way among the producers to protect titles, and yeah, it's good. Although, and then sometimes people will bargain over titles. Someone has a title that once, Universal has a title that Paramount wants, and Paramount will say, "Well, I'll trade you that title if you give me this title." That happens all the time. Yeah.
Oh wow. Interesting. So we recently had a case this year in Nigeria where an actress who had starred in one in the movies in the early 90s went ahead to trademark the title of the movie,
Mm-hmm.
which now has a reboot that was released last month in Nigeria. So she sued the producers and the film sponsors for trademark infringement because she started a trademark application. Well, I think 2 weeks ago, her application was
Yeah.
thrown out for being in bad faith. So I kind of understand when you talk about, the motion pictures having a register. I think that will also guide against trademark trolls who want to take advantage of, say, the popularity of a movie, or maybe you just want to spite a producer just because you never got the part, or
Right.
you never got
In
the
order to get a trademark in the United States, it's not just filing the form. You actually have to show the trademark office that you're using the trademark, that you have a product, you have a movie out, 2 movies out. This actress did not have any movies out. She was just in the movies. So they weren't her. So under US law, they would throw that out as
Oh,
fraudulent.
yeah.
Same result.
Fantastic. So my next question, which you alluded to a bit, was the AI part. What is the impact of AI in the film industry going forward? Because I saw a couple of clips on LinkedIn where people were creating films using AI tools, and I'm like, okay, I think this is going way above everyone's head now. Where is creativity? Where are you actually infringing or not? What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
that?
I mean, I feel like we're just at such the beginning. It's sort of like when the internet came out, and who could imagine where we are, now. I think the same with AI. We're just looking at the possibilities of, that you can tell, an AI, I want to see, a John Wick style action movie with AI created Keanu Reeves using a created, his image and his voice, and go, and we're not there yet, but that is obviously the dream of a lot of producers, that it's going to become a lot easier to do that, or people can do it themselves, right? If you go, well, I don't need to go to a movie theater. I can just tell my computer to show me and make me an, but it's not, it's not Keanu Reeves. Instead, it's who would be, it's Julia Roberts, or it's Denzel Washington, or who, it's whoever you want in this movie, and you can just replace actors willy nilly. You can just say, I want this actor in this movie. I mean, that's something I've heard. It's like, oh, we can redo Star Wars, and we can make, you and your, your partner are, Han Solo and Princess Leia, and it'll just put their, that's what it'll look like. I mean, that's certainly something. It's not, not today, but 10 years from now, it's certainly something that I think will be possible. I mean, we're just so at the beginning of what it is. Right now, there's a dispute over the way the AI is created, is that the companies, they just slurp up everything, right? They slurp up books and movies and photographs and songs, and they use that all to train the AI. And the question is that copyright infringement? Do the original authors and creators have any right, any way to stop that? And that's an issue I think that's going to be litigated for a while. I think I certainly see a lot of chatter among artists who have a specific style, and then the AI can really recreate that style, and can create works of art that you can use, create me something in the style of Picasso or Rembrandt, but, or Dali, and you can just do it, and it'll do it. And you're, that's, that's what people will buy. There won't be any real art created by humans, because you can just say, this is what I want. You can just tell it what you want. I think the great things about humans is that we figure out things they don't even know they want, right? That's the magic. It's not about giving people what they want. It's about giving them something, and they go, I didn't know I wanted that, but man, that was great.
But yeah, I do agree with you. In terms of what you've said so far. But I would say for me, everyone should just explore all of this with open mind, and maybe just engage the regulators, so we have like an acceptable law at the end of the day. But then, what would you consider international best practice for writers
I,
from
I, yeah, I'm not sure what, because I'm so U.S. based, and the film industry is here, so it's so, U.S. It's like you got to do it, for it's like, yeah, you got to do what we do here, because this is where it is. I mean, I say that knowing that there is a tremendous African movie industry,
Hollywood is top.
and Indian movie industry and Asian movie industry. Uh, so
Yeah.
get a good lawyer. That's my international best practice. That works everywhere.
You're playing it safe right now, Larry. You're really playing it. I guess I'll stick with that. Get a lawyer so you just get it right. But then, would you say there's like a restriction of creative expression when it comes to sensitive intellectual property in form of folklore? For instance, the Cleopatra Netflix issue currently going on. We also had a bit of that in Nigeria this year.
Mhm.
There's a movie currently on Prime Video called Gangs of Lagos. So the Eyo masquerade was portrayed in a certain light that Yorubas in Lagos did not agree to. So, what are your views when it comes to creative expression
Well,
related to?
folklore has been used as the basis for movies from the beginning of time. I mean, Disney cartoons are all based on fairy tales, which is folklore. Right, Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella and all of those stories are folklore. Um, the West Side. I mean, is Shakespeare folklore now? West Side Story is Romeo and Juliet. there is or redoing, the Iliad or the Odyssey or the Greek myths. Um, it's the I think John Campbell would say that everything is, there's no new stories. We, we've been telling the same stories since the Greeks started theater. Um, so it's very hard to go, I own this. This is what it is. I mean, I know that when people do make a direct, um, something that is, from a certain culture, that there should be, the certain sensitivities. If you're doing Mulan, Moana, as for Disney examples, that if you don't do that right, you will pay the price. It's not a legal issue. It's more, the mob will come for you if you start just willy nilly taking, other people's stuff. I don't think there should be, but I don't think anyone can go, especially when we say folklore, which is hundreds of years old. Anyone can claim, any ownership of it. Uh, who owns it? There's no one. I mean, if to say that, this
Totally, I agree.
who I have, because no one who has the power to stop it. No one owns it. It's owned by everyone. Um, but this goes. There's always been this. It's really more in music, right? Where, especially when white artists are taking, um, uh, you know, uh, black black artists' music, and you get that a lot. I remember, you but maybe too young, but when Paul Simon did the Graceland album and went to South Africa during the, apartheid era, and got a lot of crap for it. But he said, I paid these people. These were all black musicians, and I brought them and I made them famous, and they made them a huge amount of money and brought them to America. It's a tougher question. Are you exploiting them, or are you helping them?
Interesting. And just an aside, I just want to let you know that I love horror movies. So just when you were talking about the same thing, I was like, yes, yes. The whole story just revolves around one particular location and nobody wanting to go further away from that. But final thoughts on copyright, creatives, for script writers, the film industry. What are your final thoughts, and how can we reach you? I mean, I'm not in the US, but then thanks to the internet, I got access to you via
Well, I
Twitter
think
and to you
sometimes
having
people get
conversations and
intimidated and scared about
so
copyright
any other person
infringement
that
or
wants to reach
rights.
you, how
And
can
when
they
they're
reach
writing
you?
a script, they're
Just
like, "Can I do
finally.
that? Can I not do that?" And I always tell people, "You got it. Just write it. I can we write the thing you want to see. Write. Don't be intimidated. Don't be scared about this stuff. Write it. If and then if you're worried, talk to a lawyer like me or you, and we'll tell you where you can draw the line, and we can make it work. It doesn't mean you have to change the whole script. You just may have to make a few adjustments in order to get it done. But don't be afraid to tell the story you want to tell. And that's the only way, that's the way you break through, is by telling the story that you want to tell, and not being, um, worrying about, oh, someone's going to steal from me. Oh, this has a quote from another movie or a line from another movie. Just we'll deal with that. You're just writing a script right now. That's what you got to do. Let the lawyers do what they do, and we can tell you where the line is. But first, go over the line. We'll bring you back. And if you want to find me, I'm Zerner Law, Zerner, on Twitter. I'm ZernerLaw.com on the internet if you want to, contact me. And I'm so happy that I got to talk to you. It was a pleasure.
I'm very happy I got to talk to you as well, Larry, and also it's an
Oh,
honor
thanks for having me.
because like I said, I'm a
Okay.
fan of horror movie, but I have my limits. So, but it's good to actually speak to you. And thank you so much for giving me
Yeah,
your
this
time.
connection is much better. It works much better.
So, thank you. And so we've come to the end of 101 of IP Series Be Reader. And thank you once again, Larry. I mean, I had a great time and I learned a lot. I hope my listeners, I hope my IP friends, yes, both new and old, will find this particular episode really interesting. But if you haven't listened to the last 100 episode, Ejo, Biko, Zambwe, I beg on make on help me. Okay, but yeah, thank you guys for listening, and don't forget to turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any other episode going forward. And have a great day, guys. Bye.